Hello and welcome everyone. Rufus Shinra here. Hope you're doing wonderful. So the long-awaited rebalance list for non-void champions has just dropped. Plarium shared it with us earlier. I haven't read it yet, so let's go through it together and see the good, the bad, the ugly, and whether or not it was worth all that wait. Alright, so starting with a little bit of a meme, Teela Goremane. She's been the poster girl for terrible champions since basically she was released. Let's see what they did with her. Maybe that'll tell us more about what's happening. So, the base speed increased to 93. 98 when ascended. From what we have as a base speed of 92, so okay, this is a good start. What did her A1 do? So it used to attack one enemy, steal one random buff from the target. After the rebalance, it attacks one enemy, steals one random buff from the target, and also has a 50% chance of stealing another random buff if the target is under 2 or more buffs. Okay. Pyre Strike, which is it? Yeah, it's the A1. It used to attack one enemy, place an HP burn for 2 turns, and a 15% continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns if this attack is critical. Damage based on HP. After the rebalance, the cooldown is decreased to 3 turns. It attacks one enemy, places an HP burn debuff for 2 turns, and places a 15% continuous heal on allies for 2 turns. The green part is already there. You didn't change anything. You didn't change anything. The green part was literally already there, but it does it without the hit does not have to be critical for it to land. Okay. All right, so the cooldown will be now at 3-turn cooldown. I guess makes her a little bit more viable for clan boss. So her A3 attacks all enemies, has an 85% chance of placing leech, and a 100% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns, which now will become, well, unchanged. So that's all for Creela. Okay, will it make her any better? Sure, but she's still a terrible champion. This is not a Legendary Heroes kit. I hope the rest of those rebalances are not similar to this one. Next one on the list, Robar. Strangely enough, one that I don't have. I am happy about that. So he starts now with a base speed of 87. That's so 2019. And his base speed increased to 97. Okay. Merciless Assault. Attacks all enemies. Damage increases if the target is under sleep, stun, or freeze debuffs. That's the original. Now, it will attack all enemies, damage increases if the target is under fear, true fear, freeze, provoke, sleep, or stun. So basically any of the major crowd control debuffs that lock the enemy in place. So instead of just stun, sleep, stun, or freeze, they added fear, true fear, and what else? Fear, true fear basically, and provoke. That's all. And that's all they did with Robar. That's all they're going to do with Robar. Next up on the list. Man, these are not too good. King Garog. King Garog has always been a great looking champion. We were all expecting him to hit super hard. Apparently he doesn't, but they're telling us that the damage multiplier increased, which is good. Now, on to the pièce de résistance. So far, these rebalances have been underwhelming, I must say, except for King Garog, which was expected. That's an easy fix for him. Now we're gonna see the most expected rebalance in the whole game. Pyxniel. Okay, Pyxniel, Mistress of Glamours. Is it her A1? Yeah. Okay, let's see what it does now. Mistress of Glamours attacks one enemy, has 30% chance of placing a veil buff on a random ally for 1 turn. Cannot place the veil on this champion and damage based on attack, and takes a ton of books. It will become instead attacks one enemy, has 30% chance of placing a perfect veil buff for 1 turn on the ally with the lowest HP. Cannot place the perfect veil buff on this champion. Yeah, so the 30% chance can be booked up to 50. And it's not a random ally anymore. It's the ally with the lowest HP. Okay. They changed the passive. The passive Frostweaver, this is what it used to do. Whenever an enemy places a freeze debuff on an ally, it has 20 bookable to 35% chance of stealing the freeze debuff and placing it on this champion instead. And has a 40% chance of filling this champion's turn meter by 25% every time they receive a freeze debuff, and has a 50% chance, all these percentages are after books, of removing any freeze debuff from this champion at the start of every turn. If there are multiple champions in the team with this skill, only one will activate. So what did you do with Frostweaver? Whenever an enemy places a freeze debuff on an ally, has 50% chance of stealing the freeze debuff and placing it on this champion. Don't tell me they just played around with the percentage chance of it happening. Oh god. Has a 35% chance of filling this champion's turn meter. Yeah. Removes any freeze debuff from this champion at the start of every turn. So, okay. It's not has X% chance of removing, so it's outright removes. Directly it removes the freeze debuff from this champion at the start of every turn if there are multiple champions. So typically you have about 65% chance of cancelling any freeze debuff that would land on your team. She will take it. She might get a turn meter increase, and if she takes a turn, the freeze is automatically removed. So she works like a lightning rod for the freeze spells on your team, basically to try and counter torment. But come on, so if this is all you're going to do with her, I'm sorry, it's not enough to take her out of my vault. Immunity set is much better than this. Champions like Rio does a great job at not being affected by anything at all and then cleansing your whole team. High resistance teams with a cleanser, I still don't see where I could use her. Unless you tell me, oh wait, there is some content coming down the road in 2075 and then you will be great. You'll be glad that you have your Pyxniel. This tells me that I will never take her out of my vault. Sorry. It's better, yes, but no. She needed a complete overhaul. Man, I don't even know if I can continue, but I will push through. Next one is Tomblord, and I'm surprised to see him on this list, to be honest, because Tomblord was okay. He was not overpowered, but he was okay for what we needed him to do. Let's go check Tomblord. His current kit. So, what did they rework first? Death Burst. That's what they reworked. What does it do? So now it has 70% chance bookable to 100% chance of placing 2 5% poisons debuffs on all enemies for 1 turn. If the hit is critical, it has 70% chance of placing 5% poison debuff on all enemies. So if you crit, it will place 4 poisons. If you don't crit, it will just place 2 poisons. They're the big version of poison, of course, because he's a Lego. Hits decently, can be booked down to 4 turns. It's good. What are you going to do with this? So it attacks one enemy, has 70% chance of placing 2 5% debuffs on all enemies, or for 2 turns. Okay, so it used to be for 1 turn. Good. Now it's for 2 turns. If the hit is critical, 70%. Great. So instead of 1 turn, which is the case today, he will be placing those poisons for 2 turns. That's fantastic. Tomblord, I didn't think that he needed much, but this is definitely a good improvement on him. Okay, Blight. Now his other attack. Cooldown decreased to 5 turns. Fantastic. Now after books, it will become on a 4-turn cooldown instead of a 5-turn cooldown after books. Very good. Aura increases ally accuracy in Doom Tower by 70. Thank you. I would have preferred it to be all battles or at least dungeons or maybe something more usable, but still much better, because look at this. His current aura increases ally defense in arena battles by 42%. Who would ever use Tomblord in arena nowadays? I remember back in the day, Incredible John, one of the OG raid content creators for you who have been here for a long time. He did good with Tomblord in arena back when Platinum wasn't even a thing. But that's like almost 3 years ago. This aura... wow, now it's 70 accuracy in Doom Tower. That should be at least make him more relevant for Doom Tower comps, which he is already actually. He can work very nicely against bosses. The cooldown reduction on his A3 and the increase of the number of turns he places the poisons on his A2. Those are all good changes. I approve. Moving on. Warchief. Okay, this should be good. So they changed Marauder. Cooldown decreased to 3 turns. Warchief, what's Marauder? Is it his A3? I don't remember. Skinwalker, Warchief. Okay, so now the cooldown is 3 turns before books. Oh, this is nice. 3 turns after books. He places a provoke for 3 turns and steals 2 random buffs from the target. Now, after the rebalance, the cooldown is decreased to 3 turns, which will make it on a 2-turn cooldown after book. It's gonna be really good. It's gonna be really good on a 2-turn cooldown. It's nice, but still for PvE, I don't think we would see any action with Warlord and Arena, but still. Moving on, Basileus Roanas. Yeah, this is one that I'm interested in because I've had him for the longest time. I think I have quite a few of him. I'll have to check, but at least 2 or 3. So, Basileus Roanas, his A1, Bolts of Scorn. No, they changed Triple Puncture. Let's see, it's his A2. So, Triple Puncture level 1. This is how it is right now. Attacks one enemy 3 times, ignores shield and block damage buffs, as well as 50% of the target's defense. A very straightforward single target nuke. What does it do after the rebalance? Attacks one enemy 3 times, will ignore increased defense buffs. It will ignore increased defense buffs, shield buffs, block damage buffs, as well as 50% of the target's defense. So they added the fact that it can now ignore increased defense. Okay, nice, nice. So it ignores pretty much everything except strengthen and ally protection. Majesty, let's see. So what it does is attacks all enemies, 50% chance of placing a stun debuff. After books, that becomes 75% chance. Decreases each target's turn meter by 50% if the stun debuff is not placed. Now, the damage multiplier has been increased, good thing to know. Then it attacks all enemy, and as a base, has a 75% chance of placing a stun. Thank you, this is what it should have been all along. Now, after books, it will be a guaranteed stun, and decreases each target's turn meter by 50% if the debuff is not placed. So now he's a guaranteed stun instead of a 75% chance to stun characters. So this is good. This puts him more or less in the Astrolon category. But if they reviewed the damage multipliers on his AoE, he might become more relevant as a force-based nuker for Arena. I know that his multipliers weren't bad to begin with. He could do some serious damage on single targets and a little bit of damage on multi-targets, but let's see how good he is after the rebalance. So yeah, this is a step in the right direction. Doesn't make him too OP, but makes him good. However, if these damage multipliers are really, really interesting, who knows, we might see the birth of a new popular nuker. Again, with the Vault Guardians, we have Crypt King Graal. So they changed Bitterness Bane. Wait, is it his A1? Let me go back to Crypt King Graal. Should be an undead. Here he is. Yeah. So his A1 now has a 60% chance of placing 50% decreased attack for 2 turns. It hits once. After the rework, it has 60% chance of placing decreased attack for 2 turns, same thing, and has 100% chance instead if the target is under an HP burn, debuff, or a freeze debuff. This makes sense because he's constantly playing around with these two debuffs. Okay. Death Fires. His A2. Attacks 3 times at random. Has 50% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Damage based on attack. I remember having used him in a couple of Under the Horde's Faction War takeovers as a nuker, and he wasn't hitting that hard with this attack. He was hitting decently with the third attack because I had to build him as a nuker to go through that. So let's see what he did with it. On his A2, damage multiplier is increased, so now he will hit harder. Attacks all enemies, has 75% chance of placing HP burn for 2 turns. Attacks all enemies? This is big. This is huge. So you don't need, technically, a AoE burner with Crypt King Graal to build the fast Spider 25 teams. He can burn the enemies, he can burn all the spiderlings, come back, and freeze them. This is good. I hoped that they would have given him an AoE burn. I never thought they would have. So it's all a question of speed now. If you can build him fast enough to lap the spiderlings twice, he's all you need. And you can fill the rest of the spots with cold hearts or with Sissias or with whatever you want. This is good. This is really, really good. I like it. So far, Crypt King Graal might be my favorite rebalance of them all. Which is kind of sad because they've missed tons of chances so far. But Crypt King, I love that. I love what they did with you. Okay, Warmother. I don't have Warmother, but plenty of people do. Oh boy. Let's see what they did with the War Mama. So, Warmother. What's her A1? Cry Havoc. Special Brew. Mother's Touch. What did they change? So, base attack, defense, and bomb damage multipliers increase. Hey, good news. Base HP decrease. Who cares? You can decrease her base HP as much as you want, as long as she now starts doing damage. That's good. Let's see. Let's go further. Special Brew attacks all enemies, places a bomb debuff that detonates after 2 turns. 2 bombs when ascended. Bomb damage increased by 100% against bosses. So what did she do? Attack all enemies, place 2 bomb debuffs that detonate after 3 turns. Bomb damage increases by 100% against bosses. Now it detonates after 2 turns, basically, and 2 bombs when ascended. Yeah, that's the same thing. Alright, let's see. Mother's Touch attacks all enemies, instantly detonates all bombs, debuffs if this champion is under an increased attack buff. Instantly detonates all bomb debuffs if this attack is critical. Interesting. So, I don't know about this. Is this a nerf? Or a... Well, since they said that they would rework her bomb damage and her multipliers and her base stats, this indicates to me that if they left the attack or the skill as it is right now, she might become too powerful. Well, that's at least I think that's the reasoning behind modifying the condition to make it so that she only detonates the bombs if she's under an increased attack buff. Because they said they're gonna increase the base attack, which is basically what the bombs scale off of, defense and bomb damage. So they do this, both an increase on the bomb damage multiplier and the attack. Maybe this is gonna make her finally usable somewhere. I don't know. We'll see. So far, I don't know about this one. It sounds good on paper, but let's see. Grohak the Bloodied. Another bloody bad champion, notorious for guarding vaults all around the world. And he is an orc, of course. Isn't he? Yes, Bloody Grohak. So what are his attacks names? Sap Swiftness, Unbound Anger, Lord of War. What did they change? and bound anger, so he's A2. Now the cooldown is decreased to 3 turns. Attacks all enemies. Each critical hit fills this champion's turn meter by 20%. Attacks all enemies, fills this champion's turn meter by 20% for each enemy under decreased speed. So now it will automatically fill his turn meter, and the cooldown decreased to 3 turns instead of 4, making him a little bit better as far as manipulating your team's turn meter. Okay, Lord of War. What does it do now? It attacks one enemy and steals the target's turn meter. That's all. 5 turns, bookable down to 4. This is what it's gonna become. Attacks one enemy and steals the target's turn meter. Places a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns if this attack is critical. So they added a weaken if the attack is critical. All I can say is I'm glad I don't have Grohak, and I don't want to have him. What kind of... I don't know. Then we're going to the bad stuff. Yeah, Urogrim. Of course, you couldn't leave him alone. We were happy about a champion. I read what they did from the corner of my eye, and I'm already angry. So there is this man. Now his A1 normally attacks 3 times. Each hit has a 25% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. And what do they do? Now he attacks twice, and each attack has a 25% chance of placing a poison debuff for 2 turns. Bizarre Vapors, his I think his A3. That's his bread and butter, his best attack. Now it's on a 3-turn cooldown after books. Places 3 poisons and 3 continuous heals. Basically, it's Basileus A2, except the debuff cleanse. Now they increase the cooldown to 6 turns, which will make it 4 turns. And places 2 5% poisons instead of 3. Also places a 15 continuous heal debuff on all allies for 2 turns instead of 2. Why? Why? This is pissing me off. We were waiting for the champion rebalance to buff champions, take champions out of the vault. Everybody was happy after putting Urogrim, because people who could not access legendary champions like Basileus or other good cleansers or good poisoners were happy when they pulled this champion from a void shard and were starting to build him. Some people build more than one if they got 2 or 3 copies of him. And now, this is, granted, this is not a huge nerf, still a pretty significant one that will knock him down from the extra top tier he is back to just a good champion. Wow. I'll need a few minutes to collect my thoughts and be able to sum all of what we've seen. But Plarium, seriously? Okay, so what did we learn today? We learned that they're going to gut Urogrim, that most Vault Keepers will remain Vault Keepers. Teela Goremane, probably, that's not going to make her any better. She's going to start seeing some use a little bit more in clan boss, but she already did to begin with. She's just going to be a little bit more useful. Robar, nothing to talk home about. King Garog, we'll need to see how good the damage multiplier increase that they're going to do with him. Pyxniel, nothing. She will have niche uses to counter Torment comps and freeze champions, but besides that, what's her use? So people will start using her maybe in Ice Golem, but still, no, she's just there to place Veil and attract all kinds of freezes to herself. Tomblord, yes, they did a good change on Tomblord. Now his poisons, he places 2 poisons instead of he places poison for 2 turns instead of 1 turn, and they decrease the cooldown. Warchief, yeah, nice change. Basileus maybe is good, maybe see some use now. We need to see how his multipliers work. Crypt King Graal, probably the best, by far the best rebalance of this patch. I can't wait to see this change in action and see what we can do with him right now. But again, this just touches very narrow aspects of the game. We know that it will for 100% be it will have effect on the Spider 25-24 farming comps, but will it make him usable in arena? Will it make him usable elsewhere? The answer is probably yes, but it will not shake the established meta by any means. Warmother, she's been waiting for a rebalance for ages. She's going to get that buff to her multiplier's damage. Who knows, maybe. Let's see, unless it's a huge buff, a really significant one. I don't think it's going to impress anyone. Grohak the Bloodied is still bloody awful. They gave him a 25% weaken. That's it. Well, Grohak, I read it too quickly earlier. The attack, instead of well, it works a little bit like Kale's A2. So congratulations, you buffed Grohak all the way to Kale's level, the starter of this game. Good job, Plarium, good job. And Urogrim, you nerfed him to the ground. Again, I don't want to say nerfed to the ground. Man, I'm sorry if I'm coming off angry, but this is something we've been waiting for a long time. And we've been asking about it. We've been given exactly what needs to be changed, in which ways it should be changed. And there are plenty of other champions that could use reworks that they haven't touched on. This is exactly what we mean when we say too little, too late. And in some cases, bloody wrong. Please, Plarium, please listen to the player base. Please. Because it doesn't look like you are listening to the player base. This has been Rufus Shinra. Thank you very much for listening. Leave a subscription if you haven't, and please tell me, am I crazy? Am I just overdoing it? Let me know in the comment section below if you agree with me on the changes that they've done, and what would you have changed if you were in charge of the balance. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next upload.